Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Our opening ceremony is about to begin. Please have a nice seat and back to your position. Hello, the audience in this room, are you with me? And hello, the audience from Zoom webinar, are you with me? Is there any trouble? Hello, audience on YouTube also. I am Sudi Wijayati and my partner, Nuansa Ramadanti, as the Master of Ceremony on this seminar. Thank you for joining. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Semarang. We proudly present to online International Seminar on Nursing Department, Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang 2020. It's being a great honor for us to be standing here and welcome each and every one of you in online seminar. Improving the quality of nursing care 21st century minimum practice. First of all, we can start the seminar with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting will provide you plenty of opportunities to discuss, share knowledge, and insights. Before we proceed the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Excellency, the Director of Poltekkes Semarang Ministry of Health in Semarang, Mr. Marsum, the respectable Head of Nursing Department in Health Polytechnic of Semarang, Mr. Suharto. Honorable, our online seminar speakers. The first speaker is Suparna Majumdarkar, PhD. And then Mr. Dr. Sugianto, SPD ABP SC. And also Elvira L. Ujol, PhD. And the last, Mr. Dr. Sudirman, MN. Excellency, distinguished guests, delegates, speakers, and participants. Let's stand together to sing Indonesian anthem. Audience, take a seat, please. Distinguished guests, now we are going to listen to Mr. Suharto, who will give us the committee report.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. May Allah bless us. The Honorable Director of Polytechnic Kesehatan Semarang, Mr. Haj Marsum PA-SPD MHP, all speakers that I respect at the International Online Seminar, Mr. Dr. Haji Sugianto, SPD MAP PSD. Second, Dr. Suparna Majumdarkar from Bangalore, India. Thank you for welcome. The third, Dr. Elvira L. Urgel, Dean of School of Nursing Centro Escolar University, Manila, Philippines. Welcome to this seminar. And the last, Dr. Sudirman MN for Nursing Department, Politeknik Kesehatan Semarang. What I respect, Vice Director and Head of Division Polkesmar, dear, the whole committee, all lecturers and employees at Semarang Nursing Department, all the students and alumni in Semarang Nursing Department that I love and I'm abroad. All participants IOS, we call IOS, International Online Seminar, both through Zoom and YouTube channel that I respect. First, let's give gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, which we are still given health condition, strength, so that we can follow this EOS without hiccups or any obstacle. Director Mr. Marsum, on this happy occasion, I want to give short report that this activity was held in this day, 28 July 2020. The number of participants until now, more than 700 participants because still running in progress, registered. Mr. Masum, that the topic of this seminar is improving the quality of nursing care in the 21st century in the era new norm practice. It is believed that the importance of nurses and prospective nurses to improve their competence in addressing and face up to the global era in the 21st century, and in the case of COVID-19 pandemic in the new norm era. So the purpose of this event is to have nurses ready for a new norm in the field practice now. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know that this activity is supported by various parties and great committee, also supported by Mr. Director and all staff Polkesmar. For that, I say many thanks. I apologize for any mistake that happened in this seminar. And before I concluding this report, I beg the willingness of Mr. Director to give welcome speak and also open this EOS event. Thank you very much for your kind intention. Let us follow this seminar until the end of this event. Have a nice seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Suharto, for the report. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us invite the Director of Poltekkes Semarang Ministry of Health to give us the welcome speech and opening remarks. Mr. Marsum, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Good afternoon everybody. Salam sehat, sehat Indonesia, bersyukur. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah. That's thanks to presence of Allah Almighty for the abundance of grace and the joy of all us can meet here through online international seminar without any barriers at all and good health. Not forgetting the salawat and greetings we put out to the Prophet Muhammad. May we all get intersection and the end. Amin. I would like to extend my best regards, the first to His Excellency, heads of the Health Human Resources Education Centers of Indonesian Ministry, Mr. Dr. Haji Sugianto, Master of Applied Science. And then the other speaker, Mr. Dr. Suparna Majumbaka, Mrs. or Miss Dr. Suparna Majumbaka from Department of Sociology and Social Work, Chris deems to be University, Bangalore, India. And then Miss Dr. Elvira L. Argel from School of Nursing Centro Escobar University, Manila, Philippines. And from our friends, Dr. Sudirman, Bachelor of Nursing, Master of Nursing from Department of Nursing, Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang. And of course, the other excellency, especially for Vice Director, for heads departments, for all of delegates, participants of this seminar. On behalf of Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang, I would like to say welcome to and thank you very much for spending your time joining this special event conducted by Nursing Department. This is considered as one of our efforts in combating the COVID-19 pandemic by updating our knowledge and skill regarding this issue. As we know that we have to fight against the COVID-19 in various ways, and we must also concern on improving the quality of nursing care services in the 21st century new norm practices. It's a good topic to share the knowledge and experiences among experts, among practitioners, among professionals, and of course, among students. So, on this occasion, I ask you permission to open this seminar with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. At the end of my speech, hopefully this event can run smoothly and bring great benefits to all of us. Happy to seminar, enjoy special time. Thank you very much. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Marsum, for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, The International Online Seminar on Nursing Department Polkesmar with Improving the Quality of Nursing Care in 21st Century New Norm Practice is about to begin. Now, we come to our main program, Plenary Session. This session will be led by our moderator, Mrs. Nina Indriawati and Mr. Arwani. Please on the stage.
Check. Okay. Okay. Good afternoons. Welcome to the seminar today. Thank you all for finding time and visiting today's webinar on the online international seminar, or we call it OIS for the health professionals.
Yes.
And we want to introduce ourselves here. I am Nina, and
I'm Arwani. Hello, everybody. How are you?
how are you today?
Yeah, I do hope every single person will be happy
with the
and
good
enjoy.
time. Okay. We will be your moderators, and we are excited to hosting this session today. And great, we have our four speakers for today's seminar, and we want to welcome all the speakers here. And we have two from the Indonesia and two from the abroad. And for the speaker from Indonesia, we have already come to this webinar. Welcome to the Dr. Sugianto, SPD MAPP SC. Assalamualaikum Bapak.
Assalamualaikum Pak Sugianto. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, Bapak.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum. Yeah.
Okay, and the second speaker is already here, and Dr. Sudirman MN. Welcome, Pak Dirman.
How are you, Pak Dirman?
And the third speaker is our friend from India. I think she is already come. She is coming. Yeah, already joined us. Already joined us.
We try to
Okay.
say hello.
Yeah, say hello. Hello, Doctor. Hello, Suparna Majundarkar, PhD from India. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sana?
Good afternoon.
How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today.
Thank you.
Okay, and the fourth one is from Philippines,
Yes.
and but she still not yet join us.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe later.
Yeah.
Okay, and great. And today our topic is about improving the quality of nursing care in the 21st century in new norm practice. And before we start, I will announce some of a rule here. And the first one, let me explain how you can ask the questions. You can just write down in the chat room that already in the webinars, and also you can do at the pigeon holes from the our audience in the YouTube channels.
Yes.
Okay, and the second, we will send you all the relevant links after these events. Okay, let me
Well,
start.
next. Yes. First. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before Dr. Sugianto present his presentation, I'm going to read the curriculum vitae from Dr. Sugianto. He is previously as director of Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang, and now he is the head of Center for Human Resources for Health Education, Ministry for Health of Health of Republic of Indonesia. And Dr. Sugianto completed his master degree in Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia in 2004. In 2019, Dr. Sugianto completed his doctorate program in medical and health sciences in Universitas Diponegoro, Indonesia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now is Dr. Sugianto, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Arwani, Bu Nina. Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For Director Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang, respected international speakers from Philippines and Thailand, all guests, audience, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Mari kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah SWT atas kegiatan seminar internasional yang diselenggarakan oleh jurusan keperawatan. Tentunya kami sangat berbangga diselenggarakannya kegiatan seminar internasional ini oleh jurusan keperawatan, Pak Harto, ya, dan seluruh jajaran, teman-teman di keperawatan, salam salut, ya, sukses, mudah-mudahan kegiatan ini dari awal sampai akhir. Dan izin kami dibantu slide share-nya, ya, terkait bagaimana sih untuk meningkatkan kualitas pendidikan kesehatan di abad 21. Ya, di era new normal ini. Kami minta host barangkali untuk membantu. Ya. Jadi topiknya kira-kira ini, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Next slide. Ya, sebelumnya ya. Jadi kalau kita lihat Bapak Ibu sekalian, tentang perdagangan bebas lah ini ya, barang dan jasa ini akan ya, masuk ya dan keluar dari Indonesia, termasuk barangkali sektor kesehatan. Ya, tadi dalam berbagai kerangka kerjasama baik multilateral, regional, bilateral ya, ini tentunya sudah ada baik mulai dari ASEAN, APEC, WTO dan multilateral. Dan ini tentunya mau tidak mau kita bagian dari komunitas internasional akan terlibat ke arah itu. Selain dilakukan kerjasama internal di ASEAN, tadi membentukkan kerjasama liberalisasi perdagangan di ASEAN ini secara paralel juga melalui kerjasama dalam kerangka ASEAN Plus One, ya. Yang terdiri dari 6 negara, yaitu China, Jepang, Korea, India, ya, kemudian Australia dan New Zealand. Jadi ini komunitas ya sekitar kita. Kemudian juga ada Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership atau RCEP, ya, merupakan sebuah forum kerjasama di bidang perdagangan yang bertujuan untuk mengintegrasikan Free Trade Agreement atau FTA, ya, antara negara ASEAN, ya, AMS dengan 6 negara mitra, yaitu Australia, China, India, Jepang, Korea, dan New Zealand. Nah, tidak hanya itu, jadi Indonesia juga mempunyai kerjasama dalam kerangka bilateral dengan Australia, ya, dalam perjanjian Indonesia Australian Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (IACPA), ya, dan Indonesia dengan Jepang dalam perjanjian IJPA, Indonesian Japan Economic Partnership Agreement. Jadi ini sudah ada, sudah ditandatangani, dan tentunya nanti juga akan berdampak di sektor kesehatan. Luar biasa dari perjanjian-perjanjian itu, ya, implementasinya barangkali nanti akan juga ke sektor kesehatan. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, next slide barangkali. Tantangan dan globalisasi, liberalisasi sektor jasa kesehatan, ya, dan perdagangan transaksi jasa kesehatan di dunia ini telah berkembang pesat. Jadi akibat globalisasi 2 dekade terakhir ini. Globalisasi tentunya juga mempengaruhi perubahan di semua sektor, tidak kecuali di bidang kesehatan. Jadi sudah kita pahami semua, barangkali Bapak Ibu sekalian, Dan tentunya di ASEAN Economic Community, ya, masyarakat ekonomi ASEAN, ini sebenarnya sudah ada Mutual Recognition Agreement atau MRA between ASEAN countries. Ya. Kemudian juga ada Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, ini ada agreement antara 10 negara ASEAN dan 5 negara partner. Juga khusus barangkali di Health Minister Regulation nomor 3 2020 di pasal 47 itu rumah sakit itu dapat merekrut ya foreign health workers and non-health workers according to service needs. Jadi artinya Bapak Ibu sekalian, mau tidak mau barangkali kita juga harus mempersiapkan itu. Jadi sebenarnya ini adalah menyiapkan kesempatan, ya ada kesempatan untuk kita, tapi juga nanti tenaga kesehatan yang dari luar untuk masuk Indonesia. Ini mau tidak mau berarti kita harus ready. Ya, era itu pasti akan datang cepat atau lambat. Jadi kita harus bersiap-siap kalau kita tidak akan ketinggalan dengan negara-negara lain. Kalau sikap kita barangkali masih biasa-biasa saja, tenang-tenang saja, nanti tahu-tahu kita hanya menjadi penonton. Ya, next slide. Nah ini juga tentunya globalisasi ini membuka peluang juga permintaan tenaga perawat di luar negeri. Ya, jadi siang ini sebenarnya kita juga ada diskusi dengan British Embassy, ya, hampir jam yang sama, terkait juga untuk bagaimana sih meningkatkan kapasitas tenaga kesehatan khususnya di nurse, ya, midwife dan caregiver. Jadi apa sih langkah-langkah konkret yang bisa dilakukan dari kerjasama itu, dan itu kerjasama sudah sudah di action plan, artinya harus jalan. Ya. Kemudian juga dengan Jerman yang akan kita juga siapkan di situ. Jadi artinya Bapak Ibu sekalian, tentunya dengan globalisasi ini permintaan tenaga khususnya barangkali perawat luar negeri ini juga cukup tinggi. Nah, ini era global ini juga merupakan sekaligus ya, tantangan barangkali untuk teman-teman di perawat, ya. Bagaimana kita bisa turut ambil bagian. Nah, kami tentunya sangat terima kasih kemarin pada teman-teman perawatan di Semarang yang bisa support untuk Yomema itu. Kebutuhannya barangkali setiap bulan cukup tinggi. Ya, tapi kita belum bisa memenuhi itu. Ya, belum nanti ke beberapa negara-negara yang lain. Yang tentunya ini menjadi PR besar ya untuk teman-teman pengelola di perawatan, untuk jurusan, prodi, Bapak Ibu dosen, bagaimana kita memotivasi ya merekrut agar anak-anak ini bisa untuk bisa berkontribusi di pasar global. Ya, tentunya persaingan ke depan juga nanti akan semakin ketat, ya. Jadi ada perbedaan budaya, ya, disiplin, dedikasi kerja, kemampuan bahasa, dan motivasi bekerja di luar negeri ini, catatan-catatan kita yang ada ini memang masih sangat rendah. Ya. Jadi kurikulum pendidikan barangkali tidak terlalu jauh, ya, tetapi hal-hal yang tadi saya sebutkan itu menjadi concern kita. Bagaimana kita sama-sama bisa meningkatkan. Kemudian juga ada persyaratan sertifikasi, ya. Beberapa negara itu juga memerlukan sertifikasi khusus, ya. Jadi standarisasi dan sertifikasi. Jadi tentunya juga ini menjadi PR kita, bagaimana kita bisa memfasilitasi itu, ya, sehingga lulusan kita bisa diterima di dunia kerja di negara yang membutuhkan. Ya, tentunya ini PR kita, Bapak Ibu, teman-teman pengelola semua, ya, Bapak Ibu dosen, bagaimana kita bisa memberikan penguatan, ya, kompetensi perawat, ya, mulai dari masa pendidikan. Ya, itu tugas kita. Next slide. Ya. Ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, agar lulusan kita bisa bersaing di dunia kerja, tentunya harus dilakukan beberapa hal yang menjadi concern kita, ya. Jadi bagaimana kita bisa mengintensifkan tenaga pendidik untuk memperkuat kerjasama bidang pendidikan. Ya, Ya, ini sangat penting ya, kunci di tenaga pendidik ini. Dan saya sangat bersyukur barangkali kemampuan teman-teman yang di Polres Semarang jurusan keperawatan ini luar biasa. Ya, bagaimana teman-teman mendeliver ya, pembelajaran itu dengan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Kemudian juga memperbaiki kualitas pendidikan di Indonesia. Ini PR kita semua. Ya, kita kadang-kadang sudah merasa cukup ya, sudah merasa bagus, sudah merasa hebat begitu ya, tapi banyak hal yang tentunya masih bisa kita tingkatkan. Kemudian juga bagaimana mencetak tenaga perawat ya, agar mampu bersaing dengan tenaga terampil luar negeri, baik secara kuantitas dan kualitas. Ini kita ingin lulusan-lulusan itu bukan jago kandang ya, tapi bagaimana mereka bisa menjadi pejuang, bisa orang-orang yang tangguh, yang bisa bersaing di komunitas internasional. Ini yang barangkali concern kita semua. Next slide. Jadi ini kita lihat bahwa sekalian, jadi di era globalisasi ini juga menuntut tenaga kesehatan, khususnya perawatnya agar mampu setara, bahkan lebih unggul dari tenaga kesehatan dari luar negeri. Jadi peningkatan kualitas tenaga kesehatan Indonesia ini perlu dilakukan ya, melalui uji kompetensi di akhir masa studi, ya. Terus kemudian juga peningkatan bahasa asing. Ya. Peningkatan peran OP ini juga perlu dilakukan melalui penyelenggaraan pelatihan keprofesian. Ya. Jadi ada kolaborasi lah dari pendidikan, kemudian dari organisasi profesi, kemudian juga penyelenggaraan pendidikan ini bagaimana sih kalau kemudian kita pelan-pelan mengacu pada akreditasi internasional, mengacu pada standar kurikulum internasional. Ini yang Bapak Ibu sekalian kita coba ke sana. Dulu barangkali kita ingat masih ada APEC ya, program AP5 dengan Australia pada waktu itu bagaimana kemudian kita menjadi concern kita kembali. Ya, kita lihat kembali, kita buka-buka lagi, ya, bagaimana kita kurikulum kita, apakah ada gap dengan standar kurikulum internasional itu. Termasuk barangkali harus mulai memikirkan akreditasi internasional agar jurusan kita, prodi kita, ya, lulusan kita itu terekognisi. Ini yang barangkali tantangan kita ya, Bapak Ibu kita semua untuk membawa anak-anak kita biar bersaing di dunia internasional. Kemudian Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita juga concern pada saat sekarang barangkali ya COVID-19 ya telah menjangkit di seluruh dunia ya. Ya, jadi di COVID-19 ya. Bagaimana kita sama-sama menghadapi COVID-19 ini. Ya, jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, masalah yang dihadapi barangkali tentunya kita next slide mungkin Bapak Ibu sekalian. Jadi perawat ini menjadi menjadi andalan lah, ya, menjadi ujung tombak ya. Jadi perannya cukup besar nih dalam memberikan pelayanan kesehatan bagi pasien COVID ya. Kemudian juga profesionalitas dari perawat, kompetensi perawat ini sangat dibutuhkan ya. Kemudian juga intensitas kerja perawat ini luar biasa. Jadi problem yang dihadapi. Terus kemudian beberapa strategi tentunya yang perlu dilakukan adalah bagaimana kita mempersiapkan fasilitas dan alat proteksi yang memadai, memberikan insentif ya, finansial, non finansial, dan penghargaan kepada tenaga kesehatan, juga mengikuti protokol pemerintah dalam rangka memutus mata rantai COVID. Ini tentunya peran teman-teman perawat ya, anak-anak kita, mahasiswa ya, itu sangat tinggi ya. Bagaimana kita bisa memutus mata rantai pandemi COVID-19. Next slide. Ya. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu sekalian, ini kita juga sudah memasuki era new normal atau orang kenormalan baru, ya. Jadi tentunya ini yang berubah adalah bagaimana kita bisa beradaptasi dengan kebiasaan baru, ya. Jadi yang dulu mungkin barangkali kita tidak menggunakan masker, kemudian kita harus pakai masker. Tentunya ini dalam rangka untuk mencegah ya adanya penyebaran penularan pandemi COVID-19 ini. Ya, tentunya di pendidikan juga sama ya. Jadi kita harus mengacu ini di era new normal ini. Jadi kita sama-sama berhati-hati mengacu ada ketentuan yang berlaku. Jadi sudah ada yang dari keputusan Menteri Kesehatan, tentunya nanti bisa sama-sama kita acu. Ya, next slide. Ya. Nah, ini di era new normal ini prinsipnya sebenarnya adalah ya kesehatan dan keselamatan siswa, pendidik, ya, warga, masyarakat ada sekitar itu menjadi prioritas utama. Ya, jadi saat sekarang barangkali daerah-daerah zona merah, kuning, hijau, orange itu tetap ya dilarang untuk melakukan tatap muka untuk sampai sekarang ini. Ya, jadi pembelajaran tetap harus menggunakan prinsip-prinsip ini. Next slide. Ya. Nah, ini juga Bapak Ibu sekalian, tentunya kita harus pandai-pandai menyesuaikan strategi pembelajaran. Ya. Mana yang memang ranahnya kognitif, afektif, kemudian juga psikomotor. Tentunya dengan metode-metode pembelajaran yang berbeda. Nah, kalau memang itu kognitif, berarti kita bisa 100% menggunakan online ya. Tapi kalau psikomotor itu tentunya lebih banyak yang offline. Ini menjadi PR tersendiri bagi kita, bagaimana agar kualitas lulusan kita ini tidak turun ya, dalam situasi pandemi COVID-19 ini. Ya, next slide. Nah, ini Bapak Ibu, jadi ada 3 hal agar proses pembelajarannya dengan menggunakan hybrid atau dengan menggunakan online learning ini bisa berjalan dengan bagus. Ya, ada IT, ada dosen, kemudian juga ada mahasiswa. Jadi bagaimana dosen, mahasiswa ini bisa memiliki digital literasi yang bagus. Ya, bagaimana dosen bisa melakukan online learning management. Jadi tidak mudah ternyata. Misalnya sudah punya LMS, tetapi belum banyak digunakan secara maksimal. Ini karena memang perlu dilatih, perlu dipelajari. Kemudian bagaimana kita menyiapkan sumber-sumber belajar yang bagus untuk anak-anak kita. Itu juga ternyata harus belajar. Ya, tidak bisa serta-merta kita bisa menyiapkan. Termasuk barangkali students, ya, ini learning material acquisition, bagaimana sih mereka bisa mendapatkan materi itu. Bahan-bahan itu, dunia maya sangat luas ya. Kadang-kadang harus mencari berjam-jam, belum ketemu juga. Kadang-kadang yang ketemu malah yang belum valid, atau edisi yang lama, atau barangkali malah hoax gitu. Nah, ini perlu critical thinking dari anak-anak kita dalam mencari bahan secara online ini. Ini juga perlu satu keterampilan ya, skills ya yang diperlukan bagi anak-anak, bagi mahasiswa, bagi dosen ya, maupun sarana prasarana yang memadai tentunya. Next slide. Nah, ini lebih detail lagi barangkali providing untuk educational resources bagi dosen. Ini sebenarnya ada 3 hal ya, bisa melihat di dunia maya itu dengan retain ya, reuse, revise, remix, atau redistribute. Jadi boleh-boleh saja. Atau barangkali menggunakan jurnal-jurnal yang berbayar. Apakah e-book atau jurnal, atau harapan kita bisa create new resources. Ya, sehingga harapan kita nanti mudah-mudahan bisa berjalan dengan baik lah terhadap itu. Ini juga penyediaan sumber-sumber belajar ini menjadi penting ya untuk kita siapkan. Next slide. Ya. Sementara untuk yang student skills ya, jadi kemampuan ini bagaimana kemampuan untuk mencari, memilih, memilah ya materi-materi dari internet itu ya. Bagaimana untuk mengevaluasi bahan materi yang sudah di-download itu penting apa enggak, valid apa enggak, hoax apa enggak, ini barangkali menjadi hal yang penting manakala kita melakukan pembelajaran yang ada di kampus. Nah, dengan adanya hal-hal yang tadi saya sampaikan, dan mudah-mudahan di era pandemi COVID ini kita juga tetap ya mengacu pada learning outcome, ya capaian pembelajaran ini sampai apa tidak. Kita bisa pastikan tidak dosen itu memberikan bahan yang sesuai. Kita bisa pastikan tidak kalau anak mahasiswa itu dia memang ikut kuliah, ya. Jadi kita bisa pastikan bahwa mereka memang mendapatkan materi-materi yang sesuai. Ini barangkali yang di situasi sekarang ini yang menjadi concern kita ya, sehingga nanti lulusannya itu bisa tetap berkualitas bagus, anak-anak kita tetap bisa bersaing di dunia internasional. Saya kira kok mungkin itu yang bisa kami sampaikan. Sukses ya untuk jurusan perawatan. Mari sama-sama kita kembangkan ya pendidikan perawatan ini. Mudah-mudahan apa yang kita lakukan betul-betul nanti bisa memberikan manfaat untuk anak didik kita. Walaupun dalam situasi pandemi COVID, tapi tetap proses PPM jalan, kualitas juga tetap masih bagus. Itu yang kita harapkan. Terima kasih ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya kembalikan ke Bu Nina, Pak Arwani.
Okay, do you have time to receive a question from the audience? Pak Ki? Hello, Pak Ki. Assalamualaikum, Pak Ki.
Ya.
Is it
Please, Pak.
All right, okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Hey, Nina.
Okay.
Is there any question from the audience? Yeah, whilst waiting for the question from the audience, yeah. This is from Pigeonhole. Yeah. Mohon bisa ditunggu sebentar, Pak. Yeah, Pak G, I do apologize. In Pigeonhole, there is no question at all from to the speaker. But I think,
Okay.
I hope that the audience, if you have a question, especially for Dr. Sugianto, you can writing down in Pigeonhole, or you can writing down in chat room as well. Well, if there is no question to Dr. Sugianto, yes.
Okay, can open the.
Okay, thank you, Pak Arwani, Bu Nina. Yeah, great success for the event.
So much.
Yeah, see you
see
next
you.
time. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, big applause to Dr. Sugianto. Thank you so very much, Pak Sugianto, for being here. Yes. What next, Nina?
Okay.
Yeah, we have to wear a mask.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have to wearing mask, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
We forgot at the first time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do apologize because we now using the mask. Yeah. I think it's good. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We call the second speaker today, Suparna Majumdarkar, PhD.
Yeah.
And she is from the India, and she will talk about the migration of nurses from India. I think it's related with the first speakers.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about the curriculum vitae?
Ms. Suparna, Dr. Suparna Majumdarkar, the current position of Suparna is Associate Professor of Department of Sociology, Christ University, Bangalore, and her area of specialization, academic coordination and management, curriculum planning, design and implementation, and social demography, diaspora studies. Dr. Suparna Majumdar completed her master degree, Master of Philosophy, first class in sociology from Delhi School of Economic, India in 1997. And Dr. Suparna completed her doctorate program, Doctor of Philosophy, from Christ University 2018. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, now is Dr. Suparna. Dr. Suparna, time is yours.
Thank you so much. I'll just try and share my screen. Just give me a minute. All right, and I hope my screen is visible. Can you see the presentation? Yes. All right, thank you so much. So this has almost become the new mantra of the new normal, right? Am I audible and is my screen visible? Right. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm Suparna and I'm from the city of Bangalore in India. And I teach sociology at the Department of Sociology and Social Work at Christ University. And I'd like to thank Nina for reaching out to me so that I could be part of this webinar. And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to listen to how Indonesia has been dealing with things, especially the new scenario that has emerged as a result of COVID. So I will also try and touch upon this changing scenario in my presentation. Right? So I'd just like to start with a very quick introduction to India. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with India as a country. So let me just get my pointer option open. And yes, so as you can see, this is where I'm speaking from right now. This is Bangalore, which is the capital city of the state of Karnataka, which is in the southern part of the country. And this is New Delhi, which is the capital of our country. It's in the northern part of the country. And currently, we have 28 states and there are 8 union territories. And these are our newest union territories. And these are the newest states. So you have Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and you have Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, which are the 2 newest union territories. Now, the reason why we need to know a little bit about the Indian context is because when we look at the nursing and the nursing scenario in the country, the regional variations have an implication on how on the distribution of nurses and the kind of workspace that they're engaging with, as well as the backgrounds that they come from. So when we look at the nursing professionals, we'll be focusing primarily on a set of states. So Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. So these are the major states that we'll be talking about over the next, say, 20 minutes or so. We would also like to talk a little bit about the kind of variations that exist in our country. So you can see that we have 22 scheduled languages. We're very similar in terms of ethnic differences, cultural differences, as you would find in the entire Southeast Asian region. So when you look at the context in Indonesia or Malaysia, so the kind of diversity that you would find there is very similar to the diversity that you would find in India. And that has implications for a whole host of factors, which we will be talking about. In terms of religion, Hinduism is the dominant religion in India, followed by Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Buddhism, and so on and so forth. So you'll also see religion become one of the parameters that plays a role with respect to how the nursing scenario works out, right? And as you can see, it's a very pluralistic society. So we have a huge amount of variation across the country in terms of ethnic identity, right? So if you look at the regions, this is the western part of the country has a very unique culture, which is completely different from the eastern part of the country. So when you look at these states here, which are called the Seven Sisters, so you have Arunachal Pradesh, which has one of the lowest population densities in the country, Mizoram, Tripura, Meghalaya, which are culturally distinct from, say, the western states or the southern states or the northern states, right? So just a little bit of an introduction to India as a nation. Then a little bit about the population of the country. Now, it's very important for us to know the demographics of the nation that we're looking at. So as you can see, we conduct a census every 10 years. And the 2021 census, of course, is going to be delayed for the first time as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is just another impact that this pandemic has had on us and our lives. And this is something that I'm sure you're also experiencing. So as the previous speaker mentioned, what we're living in currently is the new normal. But this new normal is completely different from the space that we were familiar with 6 months ago, right? So the population as of 2011 was 1.2 billion, and Shinta has raised her hand. Is there a question that you would like to ask? All right. So what I can do is I can take questions that crop up during the presentation, or we can also take them immediately after. Right. All right. So the population, as you can see, is 1.2 billion. And it's, of course, become much higher now. And the sex ratio in the country is 943. So we have 943 women for every 1,000 men. And the sex ratio becomes important for us to make a note of, especially when we're looking at professions which are traditionally considered to be extremely gendered, like nursing, right? And the population density in 2011 was 322 people per square kilometer. This was the average across the country, and the variations were huge. So if you go back to the previous slide, one of the states that I showed you, that I pointed out, was Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh has a population density in the double digits, in the lower double digits. It's almost in the teens. And you have states like Delhi, which have population densities of 10,000 plus. So the kind of needs that this gives rise to are varied. The demands are also varied. So when you look at nursing as a profession, they would have to deal with this variation as well in terms of provision of nursing and other healthcare professionals in highly densely populated spaces, right? So before I start to talk about migration of nurses, I would just like to touch upon migration very briefly and look at the concepts of internal and international migration, because both of these have serious implications for India. So migration is considered to be a move which was considered to be permanent, and what it is associated with is a change in all spheres of living. So when you move from your home country to the host country, you would take all your spheres of life from the home country to the host country, and that is where you reestablish it. And as we know today, we are becoming increasingly migratory. And in fact, over the past few years, past few decades, we've had more and more people move across the world than ever before. And what I've referred to here is the World Migration Report 2020 for some of the data that I'll be talking about. Right? So migration with respect to India has implications at both the internal and the international level. So internally, the COVID-19 scenario has given rise to probably what is known as one of the worst crises, which has arisen as a result of the migration of people within the country. So we've had a huge movement of people who were migrant labor, working in different parts of the country back to their homes. And this is widely acknowledged as something that has given rise to a humanitarian crisis, because what we're looking at is changes in terms of livelihood, changes in terms of opportunities that are available, as well as increased risks that people are incurring as a result of this mobility. In terms of international migration, we're looking at migration across national borders, and that also has implications when we're looking at the COVID-19 scenario, because we know that international travel has almost come to a standstill right now. And there are people who have been stranded across the world, and India has invested heavily in trying to get people back from these different countries that our citizens were stranded in. Right? But when you look at migration as a whole, there are these two ideas that become very important. And this is more significant when you're looking at migration of professionals. So when we talk about migration of healthcare professionals from India, two concepts begin to emerge. The first is that of brain drain, and the second one is that of brain gain. So brain drain essentially refers to the loss of human resource capital from the home country, when people choose to move away from the home country to the country of destination. So what happens then is whatever we are investing in these people in terms of training, in terms of human resource development, goes with them when they move to the country of destination. Right? And that gave rise to this idea of brain drain in the 1950s, 1960s, which was used extensively to refer to the migration of doctors, of nurses, and other healthcare professionals, engineers from India to what was predominantly known as the developed world. So countries in Europe, countries in the countries like the United States, Canada, Australia. So movement of Indians to these countries was described in terms of brain drain. What we're seeing of late is this idea of brain gain, which works in two different contexts. One is the country of destination. So when Indian doctors and nurses moved from India to the host countries, these host countries experienced a scenario which was known as brain gain, because they gained in terms of manpower and in terms of human resources as a result of the migration that people were engaging with. Right. What we also have right now is this era, which is known as this era of brain circulation, where we have this increasing mobility that we see amongst people, where people are moving back and forth across countries, across international borders. And this brain circulation also changes the context within which we work. So what we're looking at is an increasing rate at which diffusion of ideas, diffusion of technology takes place, which is fueled by this idea of brain circulation. Right. So why does India become a space that we can talk about, especially when we're looking at migration? Right now, India is the largest country of origin for international migrants. So we are one of the largest sending countries in terms of migrants. We also have the world's largest global diaspora. And in terms of the country of origin, the two countries that follow us are Mexico and China. But India has the highest number of migrants that move out, right? And in terms of the diaspora, we're looking at a 17.5 million strong diaspora, according to the World Migration Report 2020. The government of India puts down the number at 25 million plus, and this would be members of the Indian population who have moved out, as well as their descendants. So we're looking at a huge diasporic population. And Indonesia is also one of the home countries for people of Indian origin. So we're looking at a large amount of migration from India to Indonesia as well. Right now, one of the implications of this migration is remittances, or part of their salary or part of their savings to their families back home, which has a huge implication for the economies in the home countries, right? So as of 2018, the remittance amount to India came to 78.6 billion USD. Right. And this is a number that has been increasing over the past 5 to 6 odd years. So we've looked at an increase in the remittances. 2019 and 2020, we expect a dip, primarily because of the changes in the economy as a result of the scenario that we're working within. Right. Part of the remittances come from this international labor migration. And this is something that we'll be talking about in more detail within the context of the migration of nurses, right? So how do we look at the ideas of demand and supply, and what are the implications of this demand and the supply of migrant labor for both the host country as well as the home country, right? So before we get to that, I'll just give you a very quick overview of the nursing scenario in India and the kinds of qualifications that are required. And this is something that Dr. Nina asked me to address. So I just thought I'll talk about the kinds of qualifications that nurses require. So the first level that we look at is the auxiliary nurse and midwife, ANM. And what you require to become an ANM is essentially a 2 years study program. And you would be registered as a registered auxiliary nurse midwife. And the ANMs usually tend to work at the grassroots level in India. And we find that our ANMs work with with personnel who are considered to be ASHA workers, accredited social healthcare workers who work at the grassroots level, and so you would find ASHA workers in villages across the country, and they would work with the ANMs. The second tier that we look at is GNMs, or the General Nursing and Midwifery qualification, and this is a qualification that India is actually in the process of phasing out. So as of 2021, we may not be able to offer any more programs in GNM. Instead, what would take over would be a BSc Basic in nursing, which would so the qualification that we would have would be registered nurses and registered midwives. And it's a 4-year program that applicants would have to go through, that students would have to go through. And then you have a post-basic degree as well. And you have the variation here. So it's a 2-year regular degree or a 3-year distance degree. And these would be additional qualifications. So all the ones that I'm going to talk about next, these are all additional qualifications to the basic BSc in nursing that we spoke about just a while back. So you have an MSc in nursing, an MPhil, which is also a program which might be phased out over time. This is an introduction to research, and then you have the PhD or the doctorate in nursing, which would be the highest qualification that you would look at. But this would be more of an academic qualification for people rather than the practical qualification that nursing requires, right? The next slide looks at the number of institutions. And this becomes something that we need to make a note of, because when you look at the history of nursing qualifications in India, we started in 1867. So 1867 was when the first nursing training took place, and this was in St. Stephen's Hospital in Delhi. And the first official training which took place started in 1871 with the School of Nursing, which was part of the government General Hospital in Madras, which is in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu, right? So we can actually trace back the roots and the tradition of nursing and training of nurses in India back to 1867. And what is fascinating for us to note is that the initial training was limited only to women. So when you look at St. Stephen's Hospital in Delhi, the first round of training which took place was only for women in 1867, right? What we see today is a huge jump in the number of institutions that are offering training for nurses. So we have 128 universities across the country which offer degrees in nursing. And we have 1,667 colleges which are offering BSc in nursing, right? And totally, when you look at the number of nurses who are enrolled into the nurses registration and tracking system, we have almost 1 million nurses who are enrolled onto the tracking system. The sources that I've looked at when I'm citing these numbers is the Indian Nursing Council. And I have also included the links to these sources in the presentation. So if you want to look up some of these additional details, you're most welcome to do so, right? So we're actually looking at the Indian Nursing Council, which has a register which helps nurses to access resources which are available for them by registering onto that platform, right? So what are the implications? So when we look at the data that we have looked at over the past two slides, you realize that there are a number of programs and there are a number of graduates who are emerging from these programs every year. So what is the scenario? What is the context within which Indian nurses are working? Uh, so let's start with the global scenario and then we'll move to the Indian scenario. So I would like to begin with WHO estimates. And the World Health Organization actually estimates that worldwide we are looking at a severe shortage of nurses and midwives, and this is something that needs to be addressed right away. And the shortage is being pegged at 9 million. So currently we are 9 million nurses short across the world. And it is assumed that with the increase in training that is taking place, increase in certification and the number of institutions which are offering degrees, this gap will narrow down to 7.6 million by 2030. But the gap remains. So what we're looking at is a worldwide shortage of nursing staff. This becomes extremely significant for all our students who plan to take up nursing around the world, because what we need to realize is that they're addressing a very serious need across the world, right? Globally, when you look at nurses who migrate, so I'm referring to two studies. The first is from the United States and the second is from the United Kingdom. The two leading sending countries are the Philippines and India. These are the two top countries of origin. So Philippines leads the migration of nurses, followed by India in these two countries. And the scenario is very similar across the world. So in terms of sending countries, the Philippines and India are extremely significant. And what that does is it gives rise to a scenario which is problematic for for the countries of origin, even as it gives rise to certain advantages. So what are the problems as a result of this migration? What we find is that it increases the shortage of nurses in the home countries. Right? So even as it increases remittances, it helps the economy. So the migration of nurses to other countries helps the economy of India, but it also gives rise to a serious shortage. So I'll just go over some of the data from India. So currently in India, we have 1.7 nurses for every 1,000 people. And as you know, the WHO norm is 3 nurses per 1,000 people, right? So we're lower than the global expected norms, right? We have about 3.07 million registered nursing personnel. And this is according to the Government of India, based on data that they shared in March 2020. And this data was critical for the country because we were gearing up to deal with the COVID-19 scenario. Right. So what we find is that the global norms are much higher than the actual nurse patient ratios as well in India. And the nurse patient ratio in India varies from a 1:1 for critical care patients to 1:50 for the outpatient departments. So the numbers, as we can see, reflect a wide variation. Right. So overall, the nurse-patient ratio that we look at comes down to 1:4.83, right? 1:483, right? And this is a lot of these numbers are also based on estimates. These numbers also vary across the private and the public healthcare systems, and that has a lot of implications as well in terms of the kind of quality of healthcare people have access to, as well as the standards of work within which our personnel are operating. Right. So when we look at India, we are looking at a serious shortage. In fact, one of the reports that I looked at said that we're 2 million nurses short in India. So it's a very interesting contradiction. So while India is the second largest exporter of nurses, India herself is running short of nurses across the country. Right, and there are certain parts of India which are facing a crisis which is more serious than other parts are. So, in fact, some of the suggestions that were offered to deal with the COVID-19 scenario also looked at whether we could have a redistribution of nursing personnel, whether we could send nurses to states like Maharashtra, which have been dealing with a very serious crisis, from states like Kerala, which had managed to deal with the crisis very early on. You know. Would this redistribution be possible? Other suggestions that were given were to call out nurses from retirement, as well as to deploy nurses who were in training. So have them hit the workforce much before they would have been expected to in a non-COVID world. Right? So these are just some of the suggestions that have been given to deal with the COVID scenario and to deal with the shortfall of nurses that we're experiencing as a nation. So let's look at some of the numbers, and it becomes so when you look at India, we have estimates hold that we have about 640,000 Indian nurses who are working overseas, and these are estimates from 2011. And we have found that the migration of nurses has only increased over the past few years. So that estimate would be much higher today. Right? And 2.4 million is what we're looking at in terms of the shortfall of nurses across the country. Right? And why is this migration really taking place? So the next slide will look at the push and pull factors that are fueling migration. But what I look at right now is essentially how the demands are playing out in terms of the reasons behind which people, the reasons underlying this movement, right? So the first space that we would look at is the gender dimension of workforces in the host countries. So the countries that our Indian nurses are moving to, countries of the Middle East, become extremely prominent here. What is the context there that tends to drive this movement? And we realize that the gender dimension of nursing plays a role here. So the assumption that that women would predominantly become nurses, which is something that is being challenged the world over, right? And the gender dimension of the local workforce, so the workforce in the host countries, right? So that also tends to drive up migration. So the fact that that many of the countries in the Middle East do not encourage the women to join the workforce would also encourage the migration of female nurses from India. Right? The second area that we look at is the age structure of the population of the host countries. And we realize that aging populations in many of the countries of the global north, such as the countries of Western Europe, countries like the United States of America, countries like Canada, Australia, the fact that they have many more elderly people in their population is also driving up the demand for nurses to take care of that population. So the age structure of the host country also encourages migration from other spaces. Medical tourism was another reason, and this emerges from the study by Oda, who looks at how medical tourism also tends to fuel this demand for qualified nursing professionals from across the world. And the last part that tends to work in favor of India is language proficiency. And this is something that both India and Indonesia experience. So the fact that the nurses are trained in English as a language becomes an advantage for them to move towards countries which use English as the language of communication, predominant language of communication, right? So the last part that I would like to look at is essentially the factors that tend to influence this migration of nurses. So I am looking at it in terms of the push factors, which operate from India, which operate from the home country, and the pull factors, which operate at the host country. So what are the factors that tend to drive out nurses from India? So one of the important factors here is low wages, right? And what we find here is a very clear difference between the private and the public sector. The public sector is, of course, the sector which is supported by the government. And the private sector is many of the MNCs step in to take over different spaces and to run hospitals in healthcare, in the healthcare sector. And what we find is that the wages tend to be extremely low for nurses in the private sector. The public sector, of course, has wage protection measures in place, and the nurses tend to be paid much more. In fact, some of the reports that I was looking at looked at how nurses at the entry level in the private hospitals may get somewhere around, say, 8,000 Indian rupees per month, whereas nurses who are getting into the public sector might actually get anywhere around, say, 35 to 40,000 Indian rupees, right? So the gap that we're looking at is very wide. And this gap is also reflected in the kind of costs that go in for education, which also fuels this need to move out of the country. So when you look at the public sector educational institutions, the fee structure that our students would have to incur would be much lower than the private educational institutions. And we've seen a huge increase in the number of private universities and private colleges which are offering nursing credentials. And the fees there tend to be much higher, which results in a higher debt for the nursing professionals. So that also becomes one of the factors which tends to push them out of the country towards better paying jobs, which you would see here. You know, in the host countries where they have better salaries, that becomes a driving factor. Poor working conditions in some of the hospitals in India also tends to act as a push factor. High nurse-patient ratios, which is something that we just discussed, which increases the burden, emotional as well as the physical burden on our nursing professionals, tends to also drive them out. Right? Inadequate healthcare facilities, inadequate investment in technology would also tend to hamper advancement. Another scenario which is extremely unique to India is how caste as an identity becomes something that hampers social mobility, and mobility within the nursing system. So we have seats which are actually reserved for people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And what that tends to do is it tends to have an impact on promotions within the nursing sector, as a result of which some of the upper caste nurses might actually choose to move out of the country because they wouldn't want to deal with these reservation systems. Low professional status traditionally would also drive out migration, and this fortunately is something that has changed over the past few years. So you'll see that the perception of nursing professionals across the country has changed, and we're looking at improvements there, which becomes an important factor for us to remember, right? In terms of the pull factors, what is it that attracts people to the host countries that they choose to migrate to? We're looking at salary gaps, better working environments, higher standards of living, security in terms of jobs, in terms of livelihoods. These all tend to attract these nursing professionals to these host countries. Access to better healthcare technology, higher professional status, and improved social status back in the home country. So if you're considered to be a migrant in some of the countries of the global north, the way you would be perceived of in the country of origin might actually be different. You might have higher status, better social acceptance in the home country, which also works as a pull factor towards these countries of destination. Now, all these factors work together to encourage the migration of nurses out of India, which is a cause for concern for us as a nation, especially when we're dealing with a global health crisis and a crisis which has hit us so badly, as you would know from the kind of numbers that we're dealing with. So there's a huge demand for nurses, which is currently undermet, which is a challenge that we're dealing with as a nation. So with that, I'll come to the close. I'll end the presentation, and we can take up any questions or comments that you might have. Terima kasih. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing. Yeah. So over to you, Dr. Nina.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, now it's question time. Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
Any question from the audience? Well, while waiting for the question from the audience, I have a question to Sparna.
Sure.
Now, in terms of Indian nurses migration, do you find any obstacle? If yes, what the main obstacle do you find?
All right. Migration of all professionals or only nursing professionals?
Yeah, nursing professional.
Only nursing professionals, right? So in terms of obstacles, so one of the reasons why we're looking at the registration process is to also protect the interests of the nurses. So there have been scenarios where there have been quacks, where there has been an exploitation of the migrant workers in the host countries. So protecting their rights becomes an important scenario that we need to deal with, and that can be an obstacle. Because when the migrant workers actually reach out to intermediaries before they make their choices, before they make their decision to migrate, these intermediaries can be exploitative at points of time. So they can demand fees maybe, or certain charges which are very unfair from these migrants. So there are initiatives which are being taken to ensure that this process can be ironed out. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, next question.
Okay, this is the one question from the students. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what the distinguish the learning of nursing students programs in India?
Okay.
Okay, what is the distinguish the learning of nursing students program in India?
And Indonesia?
With other countries.
Other countries, yes.
All right. Okay. So one of the so when you're looking at a comparison between the different programs, I'll look at it at two different levels. One, I'll look at it in terms of the qualifications, different qualifications within India, and then I'll also try and compare the qualifications between India and other countries, right? So in terms of the qualifications within India, we are actually looking at a mix of diploma programs, training programs for nurses, which is something that we are accelerating right now, given the crisis that we're being faced with. So we have the diploma programs, we have the BSc programs, and then the master's programs. So you would have the BSc would be the Bachelor of Science, which would be your regular undergraduate nursing program. The Masters of Science would be your postgraduate nursing program. And then you have the research programs, which would be the Masters in Philosophy and the Doctorate in Philosophy. So your MPhils and your PhDs. One of the advantages that nursing programs in India has is that the language, the medium of instruction for a lot of the programs across the country tends to be English. Which gives the nurses an advantage in the global workforce. So when they're competing with nurses who are coming from other parts of the world, the fact that they can communicate in English helps them in terms of their migratory decisions. Right? Also, we have a lot of institutions which are teaching institutions and practicing. So you have hospitals which have nursing institutes associated with them. So the hands-on experience that they would get is extremely high, which is something that we are facing challenges in currently. In fact, the previous speaker also spoke about it. So how, when you look at the different domains of learning, it is predominantly the cognitive domain, which has made the transition very, very easily into the online platform. But when you look at the psychomotor domain, which is very important for nursing professionals, we ourselves have to go through this training process to ensure that we can adapt to the challenges of this new technology, right? So that's a challenge that India is facing as a nation, as a whole, right? Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, for the answer. Yeah. Do you have any question, ladies and gentlemen, especially for this room? Also, Birun? Yeah. Yeah, actually, this good presentation.
Yes, good
Amazing
presentation. We think that if like nurses do migrations, to another country to find the jobs, that means lead to the shortage of nursing in their own country, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a problem also maybe in Indonesia.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I see a question that has just come up on chat. What strategies have been taken by your university to facilitate your students so they may get easily jobs overseas? Now, my institution, the degree that we offer is in social work. So we have a degree in applied sociology and in social work, and we're a multidisciplinary university. We unfortunately don't offer nursing.
Yeah.
So we have not got any strategies to address our nurses, but we are working on strategies to address all the other disciplines that our students are working with.
Okay, Ms. Parna, now there are so many Indian nurses go abroad to other countries. Do you think that sometimes there is nursing shortages or nurse shortages in your country?
Yes, there is. In fact, there's a very serious nurse shortage in our country, and the number was put down at almost 2.4 million nurses. But this shortage is not just as a result of migration. So when you look at the number of nurses who are working overseas of Indian origin, they might be around, say, 640. So we're looking at, I think the number was 640,000. Yes. So, 640,000. But the shortage is much more. So we're looking at approximately 2.4 million nurses that we're short of. So what we're trying to do is increase the number of institutions which can give out these degrees and also encourage enrollment. So one of the points that I did not include in the presentation, but which becomes important here, is that we have higher enrollments than the number of students who actually graduate. So we also need to address why we don't have as many students graduating. And I think this is something that is similar to the scenario probably in Indonesia as well. You might have more learners enrolling into programs than ones graduating.
Yep.
Right? I would love to know what the scenario is there.
Okay, maybe the last question, which countries do the Indian nurse like to work abroad? US, UK, or where?
All right. So it's predominantly the countries of the north, and there are two segments. There are two sectors that our nurses go to. So when you look at some of the South Indian states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, there's a huge number of nurses who move it towards the countries in the Middle East. So the United Arab Emirates, Oman, these are very important host countries, as are the United States, Canada, United Kingdom. These are also very significant host countries for nurses from India.
Yes, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Nina, what's next?
I think she already answered all the questions.
Yes.
And
I suppose that the presentation is amazing.
Yes, it's very good.
The time is very limited. So, this one, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Ms. Pat, thank you so very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
Yeah, big applause to Dr. Supana. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, maybe we have take a break for a moment to listen the announce from the MC, please.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Before we continue to the next speaker, I'll read the rules for remain participants so that there are no mistakes when attending this seminar. The first rule is the participant ID in this webinar must use the original name, not the device name or the name of the organization. And then participants are strongly expected to turn off the sound or mute during the webinar process. And the third rule is all participants who take part in a webinar via Zoom or YouTube can ask question by type ask, then answer with the question ask, origin, and complete questions. The moderator will ask the speaker a number of questions because the time for discussion is limited. And then please ensure that the visual and audio connections on the device used in the Zoom meeting access are well connected. And the next rule is participants are applied to deactivate or mute the microphone during the meeting unless the participant is in conversation. And then participants are not expected to leave the meeting room. And the next is the certificate will be distributed to participants who attended the initial program until the end of the webinar by filling in the evaluation link. Next is in the middle of the event, the attendance and evaluation list link will be shared. The link will only be active for 30 minutes. And the last, participants who do not fill out the Google registration form before the event starts and or do not fill in the attendance list when the event is finished will not get a certificate. I hope our audience can follow the rules that have been made. Thank you. Yes, I bring it to the moderator. Back to the Mrs. Nina and Mr. Arwani. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mbak
Nuansa.
Nuansa, yes.
Yeah, Mbak Nuansa.
Yep.
Okay, now we will start. Yeah, the great opportunity today. Yeah, is already on the stage. Yeah, Dr.
Yes.
Sudirmans. Let's bring some information about his curriculum vitae.
Yeah. I have already understood about Dr. Sudirman because, he's my close friend.
Okay.
My best friend.
Okay.
Yeah,
he is not your roommate, right?
Best friend, yeah. Dr. Sudirman is, I mean, senior lecturer in nursing department of Poltekkes Kemenkes Semarang. His master degree completed in 2003.
Yes.
In the Melbourne University, Melbourne University, Australia, together with us.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Pak Sudirman completed his doctorate program in Universitas Indonesia with the major of medical surgical nursing, in particularly oncology nursing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think short in time. Yeah. So now we are going to be in
please, Dr. Sudirman. Yeah, time yours. Okay.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Hello all participants on line seminar international. Thank to great moderator Mr. Arwani and Mrs. Nina for giving me the time to present an interesting topic on essential skill for future nurse. So before I explain and discuss about that, I will say thank to Mr. Marsum, the director of Polkesmar, Mr. Suharto, the head of nursing department, for all speaker from New Delhi, India, and also thank to Dr. Sugianto. And for all participants who attend in the international seminar online. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, no, we are in the 21st century, aren't we? Am I right? Okay, that's right, yes. We are on 21st century. What happened now, especially in nursing area? A huge change has been happened in all settings of the world because of pandemic COVID-19. Changes in a delivery of care, technology advance, and then increase of patient expectation, change on a huge role of nurse as a health professional is growing and evolving. So in this situation, what are some of the most relevant trend in the healthcare system? So the nurses require the latest new or information and upgrading skill, so that the nurses can give and access and treat their patient. Okay, let's share ya. From Mas Rizal, you can. Okay, share screen ya. From you. Okay. Okay, everybody. This is an interesting topic, essential skill for future nurse. What skill do young nurses for 21st century new norm practice? I am going to start about essential skill for the future nurses. So in this opportunity, I'm going to start the journey of the nursing activities in 20th century up to 21st century. Just to remember us what happened and bring our brain to connect to the 21st century. From here, we start here at 20th century. The struggle for the profession is smart. What nurse should bring with some knowledge and skill into this new age, into the new century, and what should be left behind. In 20th century, much of nursing activity was related to doing for others. About 80% of time, nurse work with the sickness, service grounded. Much of the activity of caring was late stage caring. It means that the patient or person came to the hospital in the condition of very severe ill. So Here, person we are already sick and need to move through their experience to get well. Stronger dependence relationship between patient and nurse. I would say it is about 9 times out of 10 that the condition nurse should serve the patient. The focus of the treatment for the 20th century was clinical focus. That's re-establishing the normative or fixing the problem. This is no longer in nursing practice for the future, no longer foundation for this in the future. So there is a big change in the 21st century. The whole about in 21st century being second. It means technology is taking service to the new high like to portability. Less invasive, have the huge effect on length of stay and can increase the quality of life and improve the health care. This is the journey from 20th century up to 21st century. 21st century nursing practice skill, we can compare it that on 20th century time based on wait a minute. On nursing care about many activities related to bathing, feeding, drugging, and discharging. These activities will no longer exist. That activities to be a historic of reference. And now, in 21st century, nursing practice skill related more to taking on many activities of assessing, informing, guiding, teaching, partnering, advocating, linking, and etc. So, what skill do young nurse for 20th century new norm practice? We start here on 21st century. There is a pandemic COVID, new norm era, even post-COVID-19 that need essential skill for nurses to perform the best intervention to improve the quality of nursing care. This is the definition of a 21st century skill that refers to what I give pull on blue words. That is globally active. That means in the global, nurse must cover about what happened in the global. Digitally transforming, collaborative, moving forward, creatively progressing, seeking competent human resource, and adapting. I said from Siska Kendra, India, 2020. This is to give us understanding about 21st century skill. In Indonesia and in other discussion might be divided into two, hard skill and soft skill. But in this seminar, I pressure or keep focus on essential skill for nurses, for nurse in the future. This is related to a pandemic is a perfect time. Yeah? That means pandemic bring a lot of disruption. It is a stress and vulnerability test for organization. There are many shortage of hardware, shortage of security system, shortage of human skill, shortage of budget, and delay of deliver, increasing manipulate news like hoax, increase of dissatisfied staff, many person loss of the job, diminished work that happen from this situation. What is the nursing consideration during COVID-19? And the nurses in the front line to serve patients with COVID-19? The answer is nurses always and as front line for serving serve the patient in COVID-19. There are many nurses was die because of that. So the nurses aspect address a pandemic COVID-19. Are there any serious treatment taking? Please reference to COVID-19 panic. How is the position of association, Indonesian Nurse Association during during COVID-19 a new perspective? Related also how the organization or profession likely to handle the emerging COVID-19 situation. And the most important thing upon this question, and I will go in depth, what are the future transformation area for nurses to consider in the new norm era? So in point 6, I'll explain in my next slides a future area of nursing skill. Why I also give a question that is a part of critical thinking that lead to us to think critically and analyze what situation and can make some treatment or maybe some alternative to solve that. First of all, in this topic, please can we develop a crew of mindsets, not changing the mindset, but developing a crew our mindsets. It's mean essential to develop our emotional intelligence. For example, flexibility for management something, leadership skill, motivate to other people, or to adapt the new technology. This is the big change in 21st century. How we can learn to use the tool for remoting working about the new technology. We need to develop our skill which will enable nurse to survive physically, mentally, emotionally in the practical field. Which ability or skill do nurse need to strengthen today? That nurse can go through this period 21st century new norm optimally. How can we develop a grow of our mindsets? Just you can ask to yourself what the question that you can ask for yourself. What can I learn about myself today? To others and about our profession. This is can develop a grow of our mindsets and maybe which skill do I need to strengthen today so that I can go through this period optimally. The third question How can I develop a new routine so I can feel normal again? Everybody miss the normal situation, but up to now, we have to adapt new norm because of pandemic COVID still occur, and we do not know when it is finishing. This is I give description for 10 technologies to fight COVID-19. I cited from Mihalis Kriticus 2020 European Parliamentary Research Service. First, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence to fight the used to track the pandemic in real time to predict where the virus might be appear next and to develop an effective response. I will show the next step of this video on artificial intelligence. And the second technology, blockchain, can monitor disease outbreak over time and helping the spread of the virus to develop a vaccine. Indonesia find new vaccine, but we are still waiting for 6 months later because many analyze for that vaccine. Open source technology. This is give us the big data, rapid data for sharing to cope about COVID-19. Telehealth technology. This is unit challenge to healthcare delivery. And for the future, this is become a huge care delivery, both in medicine or in nursing. And now, Ministry of Health still develop telemedicine, and nursing also can develop telenursing to give service for the patient. Three-dimensional printing. This is manufacturing technique that combine many things about COVID-19, and then gene editing technology help in the diagnosis and treatment of this pandemic disease. Nanotechnology make us of nano-size particle and device for various applications. Synthetic biology and drones. Drone are in this session related to fight COVID-19. Drone are being used to monitor quarantine measure, broadcasting to spray disinfectant. But the price is so expensive. And the last 10 technology is robots. Robot used to reduce the risk of a person-to-person transmission related to fight the COVID-19. So there are many technology to fight COVID-19. I just show to you 10 technology that are related, and I can explain to you to fight COVID-19. I will show you about the technology for the future that nurse can develop some skill and not the can develop the some skill from this overview of this video. Yeah. Nggak ada suaranya, Mas. Ya. is when robot will overtake a human, and some of new technology for the future. The machine are coming. Don't be afraid about that. We have to adapt the new technology for improving quality of care, especially nursing care. Next slide. Next. Okay. This is also, I can give you a description about a robot. Robot can have a nurse for service the patient. Nurse should have ability or skill to operate that robot and control the robot to do some of nurses intervention. There is telenursing that I will explain in the later, and smart hospital. This is what will happen in the future, and digital healthcare. Next slide. Yeah. I will also give you 7 ways artificial intelligence is transforming healthcare. Click, yes. Click. We have to think this for the future. Next, Mas. Next. Yep. A lot of factory approaches equipment for health technology. More than 80 company or factory produce equipment or a device for healthcare. Next. This is one of Indonesian developed on robot. Robot Raisa still as a prototype developed by Universitas Airlangga and Institute Teknologi 11 November Surabaya. That a robot can have to deliver oral medicine for the patient. Next. This is Nedimas, neurodigital message stimulation. This is my research, and I developed this equipment to stimulate nerve for patient with stroke. Nedimas is a device that uses sinus wave with frequency 50 Hz, amplitude 0.x up to 1, and intermittent regulator 30 minutes applied on nerve spinal cervical 5 and thoracal 1 and lumbal 2 up to sacral 2. Nedimas was effective on increasing extremity muscle strength, ring of motion, the shoulder joint and knee joint. This is my research that I develop new equipment and I call Nedimas. Technology is a contemporary healthcare setting. Patient also IT engines. That will be our concern. Possible reduction in interpersonal relationship because of this technology. Next, Mas. Yep. This is still the example of engagement technology in practice. We use a robot to have some of work by nurses. And application of IT, drug information, action doses, interaction can put on IT up to access to most recent in medical records. Next. From that technology that I showed to you, there are some concern to be discussed or maybe to be what will be we do the next. Personal and professional technology has outpaced policy and codes of practice and education. Reduction in interpersonal interaction, of course, because there are many equipment that we use to the patient, there will be a reduction in interpersonal relationship. We should also concern on Wi-Fi network, supplier of device, approval for that equipment, cost of usage. We should give staff training how to operate and control for that equipment. Next. And compatibility with other IT system, IT support, energy maintenance, backup data. This is some concern that we should think for the future, especially in nursing area. Next. Yep. And now we are in the Z generation. And there are 10 categories in here. Not millennial again, yeah. We are on Z generation now. Social, Z generation is naturally social and spend 7.6 hours per day socializing with friends and family. There are many social media in this situation. Multitasker, generation Z prefer to work on multiple tasks at the same time, not just one task.
For German, yeah, 2 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, I'll skip this. And this give us on now we are in the Z generation. Next. Next. This is for the future. Nurse must address global strategy, reducing gap, technology and human, internet-based, investing in social and digital innovation, new technology alliance for goods, redefine employability, connected and smart society, health and safety for nurses, next generation cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, defense and analysis, shifting client load to cloud. This is IT based. Image new service in nursing care and highly advanced connectivity for others profession, other people. COVID-19 an accelerator. Yeah. There are many things, smart cities. These are connected to healthcare because of the time. Next. And from that COVID, there are new skills, analytical thinking, emotional intelligence, technology skill, active learning. And what for? Next slides. This is the mind of this 21st century skill. Yeah. I categorize into 4 parts. First, ways of thinking that are cover of creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, active learning. Why? Ways of thinking. And then ways of working that related to communication to others, collaboration with other profession, and then skill for living in the world. What is the role of citizenship, life and career, personal and social responsibility, and the end of the 4th category, tool for working. The tool that can help nurse to perform some activities to improve the quality of care. For example, ICT, Information Communication Technology, or IMT, Information Media Technology. This is based on literacy skill. Next. Alvin Toffler said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. I will not be explained because of time. Yeah. Sorry. And next. Yep. Okay. There are 7 skills that are to be automated. Yeah. Communication, content of ability, content and contextual of ability, emotional competence, teaching, and strong value or ethical compass. Next. This is nurses focus on the future of work in the new norm. Flexibility and adaptability. That's mean we so adapt the situation to make a better chance and a better quality of care. Enabling editing, enabling continuous learning, lifelong learning with the situation that can make us to make some alternative to solve the problem. Diversity as a core competency. It's mean next. Yep. The difference is the same. Our concern, the technology might change, but the care needs and demand of our patient do not. Technology change, but the nature of human interaction does not. Technology interface with patient care will simply work, but my fragmentation individual to that component. Next. And acclimate this with the device. We should nurse actually can control the some device to help the work to help nurse intervention and perform some activity to the patient. New skills should focus on mobility, communication, and relationship. Next, Mas. Yep. Okay, next. Yep. 21st new norm era lead to telenursing and e-nursing in nursing area. This is what we have a skill to perform some of the technology innovation for telenursing or maybe or e-nursing. What is telenursing? Telenursing refer to the use of telecommunication and information technology for providing nursing service in healthcare. That healthcare wherever a large physical and social distance exists. Young nurses can develop the content of telenursing. So nursing profession will be exist in the future. Next. especially telenursing application is home care. This is a good for a patient who are isolated COVID-19 independently.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, the
Okay.
time is up.
Okay, thank you very much. Next.
Yeah.
1 minute again.
Okay.
Next.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
The conclusion. We are the conclusion. Next. Okay. Please give me 1 minute again, Mrs. Nina and Dr. Arwani. I will conclude what I say from my side. Skill represent how we use what we know. In every sense, telenursing and e-nursing are an essential component for providing high quality, safe, and effective care. Given the intent focus on this issue by government, by public, by profession, it is vital that health professionals see this as an essential part of and not just an addition to their practice. We need to consider engaging with information communication technology to meet the challenge of contributing to high quality of care. Next, thank you very much for this session and matur nuwun in Semarang language. I give back to the moderator. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Sudirman. And we keep the question because we continue to the next speaker.
Yes.
And after that, we give the audience a question time to both the speakers.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's be welcome our speaker, the last one from Philippines. Hello, Dr. Hello, Elvira. Ma'am Elvira. Are you hear me? Hello? Ma'am Elvira?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Doctor.
Yes. Nice to see you in the back.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry I was late.
It's okay.
Okay. Can we start now? Yeah. Let's introduce the speaker from Philippines. She is Elvira L. Urjal,
Yep.
PhD RN. She is the Dean of School of Nursing, Central Scholar University, Manila, Philippines. And she will bring the topic about the preparing professional healthcare provider through inter-collaboration academic curricula for 21st century new norm practice. Okay, let me see her
Yes.
CV. Okay, you?
It's okay. No, we keep
Maybe
for,
just go past.
Yeah.
So many information from
Yeah.
Alpha Joe, yes.
Yeah.
But I think we can read in the screen, yes. His master degree is in what we call this?
Philippine Women's.
Philippine Women's University, yes.
Yep.
And Doctor of Philosophy in the Central Escolar University, right?
Yes.
Okay. And general job description, Dr. Elvira developed strategic initiative and participate in university long-term planning and policy settings. That's good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Elvira, now I think time is yours.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, please present your material.
Okay. Preparing the professional healthcare provider through intercollaborative academic curricula. So this is what I would like to share with you, that preparing the professional healthcare provider through intercollaborative academic curricula. This aim was to identify tensions associated with implementing interprofessional learning for us educators and clinical supervisors. Okay, so why did I choose go into this as the aim of this talk of mine? This is because I would like to emphasize the need for students of different disciplines to learn with, from, about, and each other. So let me begin with the first slide, the global demand for health. The global demand for health has increased its demand for health services as well as the need of the supply side delivery of health services. Now, there has been an increase in the demand for health services for elderly people, for healthcare consumers, for increase of people with one or several chronic conditions, increase of follow-up consultations, and increase of patients attending primary care services. Now, let's move to the supply side. Increased need to invest in primary health care is very important. The need to train our health workers, especially the nurses. Increased need to assign nurses to additional primary care tasks, and increased need to create interdisciplinary patient-centered teams. So there are a lot of ways to do this, the global demand for health. Now, next. The vision for primary health care under WHO 2020. It is the health and well-being of the person. Either multi-sectoral policy and action should be there. Empowered people and communities should be our task. And then primary care and essential public health functions as the core of integrated health services is our primary vision for health care. This one, the vision for primary health care towards universal health coverage and the sustainability of developmental goals is our focus on this slide. Primary health care, main focus of a healthcare system. Now let's move to the person-centered. Person-centered here would naturally be our community, our health workers, our health, the person itself. So the family and the culture itself is integrated in this person-centered. Now, why do we have to balance this? Person-centered care is organized around the comprehensive needs of people rather than individual diseases. It engages people in full partnership with healthcare providers in promoting and maintaining their health. And person-centered care considers a person or patient's social, career, cultural, and family priorities as important facts of health. Let me go to the next slide, please. Okay. Now, the preparing a healthcare workforce for the 21st century is a big challenge because this is the challenge of chronic conditions. The World Health Organization calls for the transformation of healthcare workforce training to better meet the needs of caring for patients with chronic conditions predicated upon the rapid escalation in chronic health problems around the world. To provide effective care of chronic conditions, the skills of our health professionals must be expanded to meet these new complexities. Next slide, please. Now, the universal health care under WHO again, World Health Organization, involves, as we know, health for all is possible when we make it happen, when we as the healthcare providers make it happen. Hello, hello? Okay. Hello, Nina? Am I heard? Hello,
Yes,
Nina?
clearly. Yeah, clear.
Clear. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Let me know if I'm not, I'm somewhat behind the, what's this, the slide. Now, the primary health care programs and an avenue for our interpersonal collaboration. But let us see what is this that comprises us in the primary healthcare programs. So we have the maternal and newborn health, the child health, communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, trauma and surgical care, public health and global health security, mental health, and sexual and reproductive. If we look at this slide, we will then look into the realization of our sustainable developmental goals. So this is where we are heading to. Next slide, please. Okay. The models for interprofessional collaboration suggest that the European framework for action on integrated health services delivery is strategically aligned with the commitment it aims to streamline and accelerate the efforts to transform health services delivery. So looking at the framework, we have the people, the services, and the system itself. Of course, there would be changes among these three aspects, but let us see. When we talk about people, there is identifying of health needs, what is the services that we can come up with, modeling the care, and then the system, rearranging accountability. So this entails more healthcare delivery systems. That is one way to guide us for the interprofessional collaboration. The models itself will help us, healthcare providers, to look into how we can be able to enable sustainable change in the near future. Next slide, please. Okay, the need for integrated care for the focus of population health system provides improving the population health that requires multiple interventions across the system. If we look at the model again, at looking at the population health systems, it goes beyond integrated care. The focus of the population now is more on the population integrated care models, population health system, individual care management, and making every contact count. Now, this model is now integrated in such a way that the population on the upper side of the model and the lower side of the model or bottom, which is the individual, are focus of intervention to serve and improve the health of the persons or the populations. Next slide, please. Okay, now the healthcare workforce is a global strategy on human resource for health. This is how we've been able to be aligning our health system, the Sustainable Development Goals, among others. The healthcare workforce is up to 2030, and the health workers is a proven return on investment for these sustainable development programs. As I have mentioned already in my last slides, we talk about sustainable development and how we will come up with our intercollaborative approach system. Next slide, please. Okay. What does the 21st century health system mean by quality? There are 10 simple rules. Care is based on continuous health relationship. 2, care is customized according to patient needs and values. And next, third, the patient is the source of control. 4, knowledge is shared and information flows freely. 5th, decision-making is evidence-based. And 6, safety is a system property. And 7, transparency is a given necessity. And 8, needs are anticipated, waste is continuously decreased, cooperation amongst all clinicians is a priority. It says here that the 21st century health system need a fundamental changes in the organization and the delivery of our healthcare system. Next slide, please. Okay. Next, the simple rules for the 21st century healthcare system. What we have right now are the current approach. Care is based primarily on visit. What is the new rules that we now adopt? Care is based on continuous healing relationship. Next, the current approach is on professional autonomy that drives variability, but the new rules suggest care is customized according to patients' needs and values. The next approach, which is current, is professionals control care. The patient in the new rules is the source of control. And the next is information is a record for the current approach, while the new rules, knowledge is shared and information flows freely. And the last is decision making is based on training and experience for the current approach, but in the new rules, decision is evidence based. Next slide, please. The 21st century learning. This one will guide us on how we will be able to approach our methodologies, our strategies in teaching, and as well as behaving as educators in the 21st century. It says is that there are standards and assessments, curriculum and instruction, professional development that encompasses all in the core subjects and 21st century themes. Now, why do we have to say this? It refers to the skills and technique or technologies that will position our students to succeed in a world that ever increases and requires collaboration and critical thinking, adaptability, and perseverance. So this is how we look at our students now. This is how we should teach them in looking at how they would learn more in the 21st century. Next, please. Okay. The interprofessional learning, as you can see from the slides, valuable learning outcomes resulting from the interaction among us, among health professionals in the CPD events. There is collaboration, there is coordination, cooperation, communication, and commendation. So when we talk about professional learning, then the development and validation of our interprofessional learning assessment tool for health professional is continuing. It means to say we must move into this direction to be able to adapt to the interprofessional learning side. Next slide, please. The interprofessional collaborative panel has 4 dimensions. And you have the design curriculum that establishes a mission for IPE or interprofessional education. It finds a common philosophy and it builds a model framework. There is also a developed assessment plan where we map outcomes to mission, decide when assessment will occur, choose assessment tools methods, build capacity or plan for logistics, train faculty and staff, and implement educational program. That is why even in nursing, we have adapted this interprofessional merging of other disciplines so that our learners or our students would be able to understand that the social care and the care that is given to our client must be interdisciplinary in approach. Next slide, please. Okay. Another framework that I would like to share with you is the integrating interprofessional education curriculum in the health sciences. Now, this framework reveals that how do we, as educators, provide learning to our students. Therefore, we must look into how this interprofessional education curriculum moves into the framework. So we have there the physician, the nurse, the pharmacist, social worker, and healthcare service provider. So what are our, in the foundation of this, we begin with the health and society. We have the interprofessional education of health and illness learning modules. We have interprofessional practice placement. And as we continue, we have interprofessional organization or education that embodies all the aspect of the different discipline, as I have mentioned. Now, to be able to gain and to be able to adapt with the framework, we must also understand that the need for faculty development is important, and that when we do this, when we come up with this kind of framework, an evaluation must also exist. Next slide, please. Okay, the interprofessional education and practice is an imperative to optimize and advance oral and overall health. Now, this is just a local context of this framework, but let us just find out how we move into the direction of intercollaborative, interprofessional practice and education. So therefore, when we talk about this framework, we talk about when students from 2 or more profession in the health and social care learn together during all in the part of their professional training, they improve the system for health outcomes. So when 2 students of different discipline are working together, fragmented health system, go towards the interprofessional education, and then collaborate with our health workers, then strengthen the health system approach, then there would be improved health outcomes, which our students and our learners would be able to understand that the migration of education and practice are very imperative or very important, so that they would learn that the health for all or the goal for health is our primary aim. Next slide, please. Okay. When we talk about the interprofessional collaborative panel, we always look at the collaborative practice competencies, and then we move to the, okay, let's begin with the portfolio. What is here that we have to look into? The service learning portfolio of our learners. So we have to expose them in the areas, expose them in any different health delivery system approach or units. And then team-based simulation. There must be an immersion that is necessary for these healthcare workers to imbibe within themselves the need for a collaborative practice competence. Okay, so when FY1 to FY2 to FY3 are gained, then what happens to our students or our learners? They gain integration of their practice and there would be collaboration of their competencies, and therefore the increase in competencies are also made known. Okay, next slide, please. Nina, am I going fast? Is it okay? Hi, Nina. Am I going fast?
Okay, it's okay.
It's okay, okay.
Yeah, not too fast.
Okay, let me know if I'm too fast or very slow.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. The next slide that I would like to show you is the interprofessional learning continuum model. So where are we as educators? So this model will help us identify that our students, from the foundational education to the graduate education up to the continuing professional development of the person, embedded in the interprofessional education of the person. It enables already the professional cultures, the institutional culture, workforce policy, and financing policy, all now comes into the realization of our health and system outcomes. So what happens when we are able, when these learnings, when our learnings, the learning of our students are able to meet their attitudes, perceptions, knowledge, skills, then there will be change in the organization towards inter-collaborative behavior. Performance is achieved and practice is overwhelming. So therefore, looking at this slide, we will all be able to adapt what is the impact of interprofessional education to our learners, to our students. And this is very important for them to know that when we work as a team, when we work with different teams or different discipline, this will help us realize that in the care of our individuals or patients, the care would need by its different sectors or different disciplines, different approach. Next slide, please. Developing the professional competence on clinical rotations begins with an individualized interprofessional experiential education. I know that this is what's this? To discuss this, but let me just begin with how do we implement interprofessional education and what do we expect to our providers, to our healthcare providers, as well as to our students, our students or learners. So one, we have to deliberate practice principles. And then let's look into what is our IPEC competencies. So in here, we will teach our students that each student must tailor to each student's learning, strength, and weaknesses, followed by the active participation in the interprofessional education. So what we need to do is to practice. What we need to do is give them more theoretical knowledge about IPE and then provide them the intercollaborative approach of education. Next slide, please. Okay. The student's perspective of interprofessional collaboration. What works well? Well, our students would enjoy practicing clinical handover. What did not work well? Some equipment issues with missing and faulty items. What stumped you? The expectation to perform ongoing and continued care is hampered. And what you do differently next time? Would define team roles and assign a team leader. Why did I include this? Because we would like to see the gap The gap is the reflection on teaching interprofessional communication to our undergraduates, paramedic, and nursing students. So the slide itself shows that what we worked well and what did not work well, and what stumped you or stuck you, and what you should do differently next time. So we are bringing on the gap between our health providers and our students. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, another one, as we look into the health science students interprofessional education and collaborative practice, we do these online writing experiences. Now, as I have said, it's very important that in the education program, there must be interprofessional education development session, and then roles and responsibilities must be identified, healthcare policies are named, and communication and teamwork are developed. And so what do we expect? Then our student in the health sciences program will be able to collaborate well and practice an online writing experiences. Okay, so next slide, please. Now, what is the status of interprofessional education and collaboration? I just would like to show you this, that the implication, that the implication of the interprofessional education and collaboration takes a very significant role in our system. Like, for example, the IPE has been introduced into physical therapies, occupational therapies, and speech therapies curricula here in the Philippines. Now, what does it do? So it's the implications are there, and take-home messages are also considered. So the IP competencies are expected in the professional practice based on the practice guidelines. So I really don't know with Indonesia, but in here we are going towards this assessment as to the IPE that has been introduced in courses like physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Next slide, please. Now, this Midwest model of interprofessional practice, education, and research. Now, as we move on to the as we move on to the direction of from practice to education, now let's include research. So therefore, when we talk about interprofessional merging, what is important is for us to work closely through practice and then move on to education. And now, let's consider the research approach. This model contributes to transforming our healthcare system. Even if this is a US healthcare system approach, but I think as I look into this, our learners, the students and professionals in a health or health-related program or environment will collaboratively be partners along the acute and long-term care, community healthcare agency, and community members. So this is one way to collaborate with teamwork and team-based care so that our patient will be the center of our healthcare delivery system. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. I think this is my last slide. Let me see. Okay. Let me just go over becoming a professional. What is the influence of a registered nurses on nursing students learning in the clinical environment. And I have mentioned some highlights. Clinical placements were recognized as environments where unique learning can take place, reinforcing the value of practice-based learning. So that's very important for our students or learners to be able to practice the base learning. Students can identify and describe good and bad nurses and nursing care, which influence their professional identity development. And then next, students want to be responsible for their learning, but learning is variable and the quality of learning has aspects of luck associated with it. And then next to the last is students wants to be given responsibility, trusted and treated as part of the clinical team. And the little things that matter of nursing care must be explicit for students to gain exposure and to be aware of the complexity of our nursing care. Next slide, please. And so, therefore, when this is the potential interventional goals for educators. So, one, we have to formation is what is important. And then, what are the forces fostering the hidden curriculum? And then description. What is the hidden curriculum? What are the negative aspects in the hidden curriculum? And what are the positive aspects as well? And then next is what is the impact? What are the effects of the hidden curriculum? As I have mentioned, the interventions are the closed feedback loop around the quality of improvement and loop into the provide safe reflective spaces. So therefore, if you look at the slide, we would then be able to learn and adapt that when we look at the intercollaborative practice, we then had to make a creation, a formation that would understand, see the structural issues at the interfaces between services. And then let's look into the negative aspect and the positive aspect. And then what is then the impact that gives us the effects of this curriculum? So it may be insights into how collaborative practices impact on processes, patients, and practitioners, or it can distancing from and rejection of old-fashioned hierarchies and tribes. Also, therefore, as health educators, as educators for the intercollaborative, this is one way that we should know where we should begin and where we should be able to stand with what we would like to deliver to our students. Next, please. And so, therefore, the top 9 ways to integrate interprofessional education into our classroom are there. You have 1, National League of Nursing. 2, steps. 3, explore the initiative underway at other institutions. So let's benchmark. 4, start offering joint courses. Okay. And then 5th, engage patient, families, communities in the design and implementation. And 6, be sure to have space to run simulation. 7, work with various departments to develop simulation. And 8, focus on faculty development to help them become a care recipient. And the last is strengthen ties to the academic health centers, your nursing school, and many integrated it with other collaborative partners. So in this way, the interprofessional education for nursing will be a highlight on the 9 ways to implement IPE in our nursing curriculum. In our in Centro Escolar University, this has been an added unit to us the interprofessional collaboration wherein our students will be mixed with other discipline, other courses, so that they will be able to learn and adjust and identify themselves as to these people are those that we depend so much in the delivery of health services to our clients. And so, I guess, next slide, please. And as I say, effective collaborative practitioners value a spirit of cooperation, focus on common goals for quality client-centered care. It means to say, all of these things that we do, whether we are in the practice, whether we are in the education or research, what we value most is our client. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, give big applause to Ma'am Elvira. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ma'am Elvira. Okay, we have already a few questions here.
Yep.
Yeah, both the question will go to Pak Dirman and also Ma'am Elvira. Okay.
Yeah, the
We
question
will-
is based on the highest vote in Pigeonhole. So we have two questions based on the highest vote. And the first question is pointed to Dr. Zirman, and the second question is to Dr. Elvira. Yeah, the first question is from Randika. Yeah, this is special for Pak Dirman.
Okay.
If you have to choose, what is the biggest influence of the existence of health technology innovation in Indonesia? The economy or human resources? Please explain your reason.
Okay, thank you to Rendika position of Rendika Fauzi Fitria Hilda. This is good question. If I have to choose about the existence of health technology innovation in Indonesia, whether economy or human resource, in this context, the human resource is have the biggest influence of the existence on the health technology innovation, because innovation technology come from human resource that can create and develop something and then can leading to a good economy. So in this context, human resource is the biggest influence. But in our country, the context in our country, this is different. The economic will be support for our life. So in the context of the country, the economy is the biggest factor. But in the context of existing the technology, the human resource is the biggest influence. This is my answer.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Derman. Yeah, next question will be Nina.
You.
All right, okay. This is pointed to Dr. Elvira.
Yes.
Yeah, so 3 votes.
Okay.
Question is what? Yeah, so I think you can do it in the screen of your laptop, or we have to.
Yes, I could read it.
All
What
right,
is the fate of nurses when technology is more advanced? Our students nowadays are more savvy. They are more equipped with technology knowledge. Therefore, the role of our nurses will not be replaced by technology.
Okay.
They will help our students to go forward, to move forward, because this technology will help our students. Remember, we have our nursing informatics. This is one way that we will train our students to be able to critically think well and then adapt well with our system approach. Then the nursing, can nursing trends displace or the world of nursing is more advanced? Yes, as a professor, as a teacher of the higher education as well as dean of the school, graduate school, I could say that nursing is more advanced now with the new many knowledge, many things around us. What we really need to do is search and do researches. That is one way that we will develop our minds to look at how this world is completely on its savvy world that we say. It's better. That is why in what I've been saying a while ago, faculty development is really important. We have to teach our faculty to be trained and to develop themselves as well. Because let's face it, as we age, we somehow technologically are more slow. Would I say slow? But there is somehow a challenge for all of us in the education so that we can provide our students a better understanding of how this world, which we call advanced or the industrial 4, if I may say. We are now in the world of industrial 4. So it's more on advances and technologies as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Alfira.
I can add one sentence maybe to answer that question. In my view, that technology may be able to replace nurses, but it is not substitute for nursing. The essence of spirit of nursing is uniquely human.
Yes, yes, I agree. While I could say that I've been to some places, there is now what we call simulation wards. This big school in Korea has these simulation wards because they would like to discourage already some of their students to be exposed in the hospital. Or maybe this is a call for what is going on now, COVID. But then it's different when our student nurses and we as nurses are able to interact because the communications are heightened and the feeling of the feeling of our patients that they are taking care of, the empathy is there, so that I would not say that nurses will be displaced. Maybe the robotic nurse will just help us.
Yes.
The robotic nurse, robot nurses will just help us, but not the human itself, not the human nurses, because we have feelings and we can communicate very well.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely agree.
It's very interesting.
Okay,
Yes.
big applause.
Yeah, so we can say that technology is important, but
Okay.
technology without human is nothing, right?
Yes.
Human.
Yes.
The humans.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Dr. Alfira. Thank you so much.
So we can side by side,
Yes,
working
okay.
together.
Yeah. The human need technology and technology need human.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay. What next?
And, I think both speakers already answered covered everything. Yeah. The question from the audience. And maybe we really, I don't know how to say.
Yeah. We do appreciate for all the speakers because they have already presented a good presentation today.
Yep.
So we have so many things from the presentation, but the time is very limited. So we have to end the meeting now. Yeah. But we do not make conclusion. Just remind all of you, the 21st century is very important, right?
Yes.
Every single thing will be changed.
Yes.
So we can say tangible.
Yeah. The world is changing now.
Yeah.
But technology is
So we have
forward.
okay. So but we have to be smart person.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to be smart person. Like Dr. Sudman said that technology is important, but technology with a human is nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I have good sentence, I suppose. Do you think it?
Okay, you can read it. Yeah.
Don't be good person at your home. but you have to be outside from your home to show your skill, to show your competence to other people. It means that we can go abroad to India, we can go abroad to Philippines, and then Philippines can go to Indonesia as well. Or
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that is what moving across borders, that is what is migration is all about.
Okay.
Because we learn also from you. The many times.
Okay. Sometimes we are going to be in Philippines with Dr.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you for participating today. Yeah, and all of the speakers. Yeah, especially for the Ma'am Elvira. I call her Ma'am.
Oh, Ma'am
Elvira.
Yes.
It's all right, Nina.
Yeah, Ma'am is Ibu, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Ibu in Indonesia. Yes, so now we have to end this.
Yeah.
Okay, and don't forget for all the audience, see you next in the next international seminar or symposium. Thank you so very much for your attention.
And we hope to see you again.
Yes.
And the next times, maybe in the same place or different place.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, or maybe we will the host it again. Okay.
So we have to say bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Back to the MC. Yeah.
Hi, Nina. Nina, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks for Arwani as well. Yes. Okay. Okay, see you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Nina and Mr. Arwani for lead our seminar today. Before proceeding to the next activity, we will give certificates to the moderators and the speakers who are present here. Mr. Arwani, Mrs. Nina, and Mr. Sudirman, please on the stage. The certificates will be given by Mr. Suharto as the head of Nursing Department of Semarang. Who give the certificate, take a seat, please. Okay, thank you for all. Distinguished guests, finally, from the deep of my heart, I do apologize for my mistakes while in presenting this event. Thank you very much for the speakers for informative and insightful presentation. Also the audience who participate from the beginning of the event until end. Bila taufiq wal hidayah, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We waiting for you for the next seminar. Goodbye.